one last news topic, but I think it's the one that's going to take the longest time, and it still has to talk about Sony. And I'm really glad you're here because you know a lot about the stock market, you know a lot about business dealings and the way that companies normally act, and it's always interesting for me to be able to talk to you about these because Sony has acquired Bungie for
Mhm.
3.6 billion.
Yeah, this is obviously I think this is a necessary move for Sony.
Right.
I'm not super excited about uh not super excited about the all these independent studios getting bought
Yeah.
up or all the individual studios being bought up. But Sony's actually kind of had it rough for the powerhouse that they are
Mm-hmm.
and what they should be doing. And I don't see the surprise for the price tag 3.6 billion. Um, I think that's a pretty good grab.
Yeah. I do
Um,
have a question for you.
yeah.
I've seen some back and forth on this as to whether people think that this is because of Microsoft's acquisitions of Activision Blizzard. Do you think this was already in the works? Maybe from as soon as Activision split off, when Bungie split off again from Activision and bought themselves back? Or do you think this is like in answer to Activision Blizzard being purchased by Microsoft?
No,
Because I know
this
these
was
deals take a long time normally.
they do, and this was in talks before that. Now, here's the thing, uh, because if you see it, if we the public get to see it, whether whatever it is, right? When we the public get
Right.
to see it, hundreds of hours of thought have been put into that already.
Right.
By the time it gets to our eyes, so this was set up. I would speculate that this was set up. This was going on beforehand.
Hmm.
However, they would be well aware of the business rumors of what Microsoft is trying to do.
Right.
Now, what the acquisition of Microsoft getting Activision, or Blizzard, um, did at most probably gave Bungie a little more bargaining power.
Yeah.
So Sony might have ended up playing just a little bit more there
Yeah.
towards the end as they jacked it up. But no, I would almost 100%. Yeah, this was in discussions well before
Yeah.
Microsoft made that actually announced that their purchase.
Right. How crazy is it that Sony used to own Crash Bandicoot and now Microsoft owns Crash Bandicoot? Microsoft
Yeah,
used to own Bungie
Bungie.
that made
Yeah,
Halo, and now Sony owns Bungie. Do you think
well,
Sony is going to use Bungie to make the Halo killer?
no.
No, I don't think so either.
Uh, I think we'll be surprised with the direction that it takes.
Yeah.
Obviously, like Bungie got some name recognition.
Yeah, for sure.
So with the power behind it and what they've done, I think Sony's still got enough IPs,
Mhm.
both old and new, that Bungie's gonna be given something big
Yeah.
uh, as a PlayStation exclusive, and what that will be, I have no idea.
Do you
I have no idea.
think Sony will save Destiny 2 and the terrible idea that is sunsetting?
I don't know because here's the thing. Uh, Sony has a way of doing stuff,
Hmm.
and the way Destiny 2 set up is not
It's not that
doesn't seem,
way.
yeah, it doesn't seem compatible with the way
Yeah.
that Sony works. Um, I don't know. I really don't know what they're going to do with that.
I'm interested
I
to
don't know
find out.
if they can give back the content.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you can run that again. We're not like that. But
Because
I don't
Sony has
know.
more than enough money to make the servers to be able to handle it. But is it worth it?
Well, here's a weird thing in gaming right now, though. Um, Having the money for servers is not the problem.
That's true. Getting the servers is the problem. That's
Getting
very
the
true.
servers is the problem right now. Even still, I
That's very
mean,
true.
yeah,
Square
yes.
threw money at it to get those Oceania servers.
Well, yeah, but they got
And still we had to wait 4 months.
no in November of last year, Sony managed to procure 22 million chips
Yeah.
that they needed, and like you said, we're just now getting to see. Okay, now that's where those chips are coming from.
Right.
as they're going out for the servers and stuff to
Yeah.
get bigger. And while we had some consoles, released PS5 consoles
Yeah.
not too long ago.
I have a couple more questions for you
Absolutely.
that I had set aside for this. Because, again, I think that it's really interesting getting to talk to you about this in particular because you do pay attention a lot to acquisitions and how companies go about them. Do you think, I should specify before I ask this, I don't think this will be the case, but do you think Nintendo is going to make a, like, clutch grab to try and keep visible with everybody else as well? And if so, who do you think it's going to be?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Nintendo's got its plate full
Right.
with a lot of hype.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Breath of the Wild
as
2.
we as we get closer to the end of the year, we're going to be inundated with Breath of the Wild 2 stuff.
We're getting rumors about, and I almost brought it up in the news. We're getting rumors about a brand new Mario game that will be in the same vein as Odyssey. The rumor right now is Super Mario Luna, and that it will be something to do with the moon.
I think Luna would probably just a working title.
Yeah, probably.
I would bet. No, they're not going to go because Nintendo. The power that Nintendo has is being different from Sony and Microsoft.
Yeah.
You could just look at the last consoles that came out when you had the Xbox One.
Yeah.
Have a good one, Will. Thank you.
Later, Will.
Appreciate you. Where you look at the Xbox One, the PS4, they're swinging each other, and Nintendo goes a completely different route.
Yeah.
They don't try to compete with Xbox and PlayStation on like power level, right? Or on graphics. They compete with their own IP and their own storytelling. And like I said, I think because of the IPs that they own, they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I agree. Who do you think is the next acquisition? Because it could be from anyone, right? It doesn't have to be the big three. It could be literally Sega could decide to acquire another studio in the rush of all this. But my gut says there will be somebody who will go, well, I have to get another studio then. Who do you think the next studio acquisition is going to be?
I don't know if it would be that or it will be some remaining few studios that are standing, kind of conglomerating.
Yeah, could be.
To give themselves a little more capital, a little more standing power against the takeover.
Yeah.
Or against a buyout. I don't know. That's hard to say because, a studio can have an independent studio. They get one hit, they're riding high for 2 or 3 years. They're making good money off this.
Yes.
And if the next game craps out, they don't have any backing to get out of that.
Right.
And then, somebody will swoop in and buy them up cheap. So it's hard to say. And really, I think a lot of that's going to depend on the gaming. Gaming 2022.
I think you're right.
Who stays? Who puts out the stuff that people stick with, people pay the money for, and has the power to stay independent?
Yeah, I agree. It'll be really interesting to see how things change over the course of this year. The big independent people that we still have are like EA, and then we have Sega, and then we have a bunch of indie studios, but Bethesda, Ubisoft.
Ubisoft. Well, Bethesda's Microsoft.
Mm-hmm. Ubisoft's being bought out by ZeniMax, which is owned by Microsoft now too, isn't it? ZeniMax?
Yeah, Ubisoft and Xbox or Microsoft's relationships is kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing. Even if you don't know anything about it, you're just sitting on the console looking at your screen of how you're able to get games through the Xbox.
Yeah.
Because under your Game Pass, you're going to get some Ubisoft games.
Yeah, and some EA games.
Right, but you can get a Ubisoft account.
Right.
By that, and then you get access to those. So it's kind of weird. Yeah, I don't know how to count what they're doing with Ubisoft.
Yeah.
As a merger or what. It's kind of weird.
Strange place. Gaming in 2022. It's a strange place. I guess you have like Bandai Namco too, who is like doing fine on their own.
Yeah, see, it's like there's like this canyon, this divide, right?
Yeah.
You've got all these smaller
Yeah.
independent companies. You have this big jump, this big gap, and
Yeah.
you have these big studios
Hmm.
that make games, not consoles, not hardwares, and then you have this other big canyon, and then you get to the big three.
Yeah.
There's not much, if anything, in between those areas.
Right. It's
You
really
know,
interesting too, because like those big studios are fine on their own, and none of them really need to get picked up.
yeah,
But it's like the big three just like will reach out and grab one every once in a while.
yeah.
Granted, it's been a long time since Nintendo's done it, but when they did it, it was big every time. It was Game
Mhm.
Freak is ours now. Sora Limited is ours now. Niantic
Well,
is only going to be doing business with us for the next 5 years.
there was the whole thing with Sega and
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo too, and yeah, I don't might look into the details of that. Talk about it one night, because they owned a few things from Sega for a
Yeah.
while.
It's also really weird how it shakes out with the big studios where it's almost like all the old contracts have expired and new ones are being signed. Or like, hey, exclusivity kind of doesn't matter anymore. Final Fantasy games are coming out on Xbox now. Dragon Quest is coming out
Yeah.
on Nintendo again. You know?
Which seems to be something the studios are struggling with. They don't
Yeah.
know how to approach this world, and it's kind of funny because it's on this is a social thing, right?
Yeah.
Because when you had networks and before you like say YouTube, I'm going
Yeah.
to use YouTube because it's so daggum big, right? And before the format would be like, okay, you do not help your competitor,
Right.
but how many videos you see on all different topics in all different communities where the creators that are all making the same type videos
Hmm.
will go over and talk and laugh and
Yeah.
share their ideas and stuff
Absolutely.
on other channels.
Right.
You that makes no sense in the corporate world. That
Right.
makes no sense in the business world. Why
Yeah.
would you do that? And so now on our end of it, well, it does make sense,
Yeah.
and it
Of
makes me
course.
feel good, you know.
Yeah.
It makes these people seem more real, and I don't know. There's a sociological gap
Yeah.
there between corporations and people, and you can see them trying to embrace it a little bit with like, hey, okay, this is
Right.
exclusivity. We're going to get some other games on here, but they still really, even though if you go back and look at the majority of games that are no longer so-called exclusive,
Right.
uh, if you're not on the original console, you're still getting the short end of the stick.
That's right. Yeah. There's
On
stuff that's not available in there. I hadn't even realized that I looked at it that way until you brought that up. But when you have like when the near raids came to Final Fantasy 14, and you had Yoshida sitting there with Yokotaro and Yosuke Saito, it was just this moment of like, oh yeah, this is great. And it's 100% the same thing as when you have like a Danny Gonzalez and a Drew Gooden on the same video. It's these are just people. We're just having a good time because you don't get that from gaming ever.
Mm-mm. No, there's no other medium
Yeah.
where you're going to get that. If you want a stark contrast of it,
Yeah.
um, look at television news
Yeah.
and YouTube news. Now, if you go across party lines, political leads, and everything,
Right.
yes, it'd be a lot. But when you start looking at the groups,
Right.
they will talk to they talk to each other and come on each other's shows. You're not going to get somebody off, let's say CNN, going over to
Right. That's very true.
MSNBC
That's
to
very
make
true.
their point. Because, like I said, in that business, with that old school style of business, that makes no sense. You do
Yeah.
not
Why
help your
would you do
competitor.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
It also like it boggles my mind now that we're talking about this because E3 has always been like the perfect opportunity for stuff like that to happen, and it
Hmm.
doesn't. Mark Cerny and Todd Howard are in the same room, but you will
Yeah.
never see them talk to each other.
No. And of course,
It's blowing my mind.
how many uh E3. Can you make yourself any more irrelevant?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, E3 in its original context, where it was for people who love games, it was for the
Right.
fans.
Hmm.
It wasn't for marketing. It's
Right.
always been for marketing, but
Yeah.
I think you understand what I'm saying. Um, there was an energy to it, man.
There was. There absolutely
Uh,
was.
uh, a movement. There's no other way to explain it.
Yeah.
Um, last year, I, it, E3 this year isn't even on my radar.
Yeah. It's
You know.
irrelevant, basically. We'll cover it on the channel just because we will, but
Yeah. But honestly, what are we gonna get by sitting through that crap?
bunch of CG trailers that don't have anything to do with the
Exactly.
games.
Right. Half of your games are not gonna look like that.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
And then 5 minutes after it's over, I can read the press releases
Yeah.
on what the games are coming out.
Right. And
It's
get
just a
more information
glorified,
than you got from watching the show.
yeah, it's just a glorified way to show off some trailers, and
Yeah.
it's become a marketing tool,
It has.
and it's forgotten what it was really created for.
It has. I think that what this all really comes down to is if we have veered a little bit from the topic, but if these companies want to really bring people in and hook them for their games, the old tried and true methods aren't tried and true anymore. You need to go
No.
back to people talking about video game. You need to go back to, like, there is a reason that Giant Bomb blew up for as long as it did and was like the place that people went. It's because, hey, during E3, you didn't watch the E3 stream. You watched the Giant Bomb stream where 9 people sat around a table and talked about video games while the trailers were showing up, you know? There's a reason that Skill Up's podcast about games that he's playing are more popular than the developers themselves playing the game. It's because people don't want that corporate approach anymore. They want the down-to-earth person talking about the game.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. We'll want somebody. I want somebody like me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that can be a dev. That can be a dev, absolutely. Bring out a dev to talk about their game, and they're not using all the buzzwords, and they're just talking about, yeah, we thought this would be fun, so we decided to include this in our game. You're going to be able to do this thing. And it's like, cool. Yeah, that sounds great. Tell me about it. But don't sit out there and go, in our game, we're going to have the best. How did Todd Howard word it that one year?
I don't
Your
know.
eyes will need to be faster. It's like, what? Stop it. Todd.
Yeah. Stop trying to be cool. We're video game nerds. Right? Stop trying to be cute.
The sound will be better. Your ears can't handle it. It's like, you're not getting me here. You're not getting me. And meanwhile, there's like the Splatoon guy is over there making a tube with his body. And I'm like, yeah, yeah.
This makes sense.
Just
I don't know.
watch
It
people's
drives me nuts.
coverage. Game
You could probably go
marketers.
You could probably go back through the years and look at and start noticing when the words lost their meaning.
Yeah.
Like
sure.
they'll say a whole paragraph. It means nothing.
Yeah.
That basically says, "Hey, a new game's coming out."
Yeah. And I think like a lot of people are afraid of the change of markets. Like they want to keep using the old school form of marketing, but it doesn't even work in old school media anymore either, really. And I say old school media, but you know what I mean? You can't just print a newspaper with a whole bunch of paragraphs and expect anybody to read it.
Right.
People aren't going to do that. They're looking for specific information and they want to hear it from specific people. People won't watch an interview with somebody that's not learned on the subject, maybe. But even if they are learned on the subject, if they're very dry about it and they're not trying to explain why it matters, people don't care. Meanwhile, they'll watch comedy sketches where people talk politics, even if they don't agree with those politics, they'll watch them. Because the person that's telling the jokes cares. They actually care about what they're talking about.
Right. There's a phenomenon. This is something I've noticed here recently over the past. I'm gonna say past few years, right? Political commentary on so many YouTube videos.
Yeah.
You scroll down to the comments, And so many times, over and over again, they'll say, somebody will be there saying, hey, golly, I really don't agree with everything this guy says, but I feel like he's being honest with me.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
something to that effect.
Yeah.
And why people have that feeling about YouTubers
Yeah.
on a variety of different subjects, you know, um, and these are not professionals, right?
Right.
These are just normal people that had another job and decided, hey, I want to do this. I want to
Yeah.
put out this is what I love. This is what I want to talk about, and things like that. And so other people are seeing that, and the idea of somebody that looks made up and using buzzwords
Right.
and reading from a prompter and stuff like that just doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel right anymore.
Yeah, we don't want
No,
that.
no, no. We want somebody who can, that's going to speak with some authority, but can go, hey, I might be wrong on this point.
Right.
You're not. That's a negative. You don't do that in classic corporation or in classic like that.
Absolutely.
You never do that. But that's something that a YouTuber or a Twitch streamer or something that can do.
Right. It's what makes the guy on TikTok that just goes, "Oh yeah, I tried this burger while I was at the restaurant. It's all right. I think it had a little bit too much of this." Or his review is 100% going to be more honest than one that is published in a newspaper.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that way.
So,
All right. All right.
We've just about hit the podcast. We talked about that for a while, but I think that was a really good discussion, and I think that when it comes to marketing, this is a thing that we need to keep in mind. And unfortunately, they're not gonna, but it's fine.
No.